Welcome to the Healers Podcast, where we inspire and guide healers through business expansion. We give voice to incredibly abundant healers to share their stories. We dive into the quantum field to unlock the energies of conscious creation. We also develop digital tools to help you grow, which you can find on healless.com. I'm your host, Julie, and I'm grateful you chose to join this space. Now let's go deep. Hello, my dear friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Healers Podcast. Today, we're talking sound and specifically infusing sound healing into holistic practices, which is a really, really exciting new trend we're seeing. And I couldn't imagine better guests for this episode to talk on the subject than Jessica Cross and Julie Afsahi. They're leaders in the yoga teaching and sound healing community in Austin, Texas, and authors of a new book, Seasons of Sound Healing for All of Life's Seasons, an inspiring yet practical resource for beginners, enthusiasts, and experienced sound practitioners alike. I love the premise of this book so much, and I read a few chapters, and you ladies are onto something big, a big trend that's happening right now, which is a fusion of all different modalities, and sound healing seems to be integrated into so many wonderful practices, and you're really on the forefront of this trend, and not just capturing the trend, but actually creating a practical guide and making it easier for other practitioners to integrate sound into their practices, which is really, really remarkable. So thank you for being here. I love to set intention for each episode, and my intention here is to make it easy for practitioners to integrate sound and be inspired by your book and by your vision, and also talk about the fact that you wrote a book, which we just chatted a little bit, is like birthing a baby. And not only that, but you did it together as a collaboration, which I think is really, really beautiful. And so thank you for being here. I would love to bring your spirit and your vision to our community and welcome you officially to the podcast.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. So generous and kind. We really are happy to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction as well, and setting such a beautiful intention, totally in alignment with why we're here too.
Amazing. So we love to dive right in. So I don't know where to start because we have 3 different subjects to talk about, and they're all like fascinating, and my mind just goes so curious with all of them. So I guess just in general, let's just open and start with the sound, the idea. What was the moment for you when you recognized, okay, sound healing needs to be introduced to, a larger population and to other modalities, needs to be taught to other practitioners? Like, what was the moment for you? Was it a one moment or just kind of like a journey that you ended to this conclusion?
Such a great question. And thank you for asking it. Yeah, I think selfishly, sound for me was my own practice. It was so changing. So it's such a different way of being from when I was moving through every single day. And it was simple. It was applicable. It was approachable. And I was desperate to know more for myself when I first began. And I think that was kind of the antithesis of, my own journey, my own practice through sound was completely evolving with the sonic energy that I was using through my own personal meditation and practice. And I started being curious about, can I pair it with my yoga classes, which is perfect for our infusion talk today, is, how can I give everybody just a little bit of this wide range of sound healing in a short little bite-sized box? And I started doing that at Julie's studio, and we started, chatting more about sound and, spending more and more of our energy kind of researching. And through this, our trainings kind of became an interesting thing. we wanted to give our own voice and our own experience to. And it has obviously continued on into the book and to, into other ventures as well. So it's been kind of an interesting journey that I honestly had no idea when I first began to answer your question. I had no idea we would be here today. It was very much for my own practice to start.
Love it.
I feel the same. So this is Julie, and people who know me, who really know me, a lot of people see me in the role of meditation teacher and yoga teacher, but people I think who know me well know I'm just an anxious mess. So I think and I think that's pretty common too for people who are seeking a higher state of wellness, that oftentimes, we come to these healing modalities, yoga, meditation, sound healing, because we're seeking also for ourselves some type of healing. And I've practiced meditation actually my entire life. And growing up too, chanting was a part of my household. So, and then I had left that piece of my life because once I no longer lived with my parents, my dad is Iranian, and I would wake up with chanting in my house. I didn't realize how much I missed it until I was reintroduced to sound healing through yoga and realized not my body was craving this, my mind was craving this. And then also living in an anxious body, I needed a little bit more to be able to truly calm the frequencies of my mind and body. So I needed a little extra help. I think other people are incredible at just bringing the awareness to the breath and calming the nervous system. And for me, I just needed some extra tools to help me in decreasing this level of anxiety. And sound healing, especially for me, the gong, and of course other instruments too, but the gong just really resonated with me. And I was like, I am having a hard time feeling any stress while listening to the gong. So that was pretty life-changing for me. Yeah. So when you can't even try to make the stress happen for yourself, then it's like, okay, this is the practice I have to share with others.
And how did you proceed from that moment when you realized, okay, this is for me, I'm curious, I want to learn more? Because I feel like there's so many ways. It's one of those modalities. People come to it from so many ways. Some people, start musicians and then discover it. Some people come from like breath work and other practices. But there's also so many ways to receive those teachings, right? And the training. And I'm just curious, did you say at that point, okay, I need to go and get certified, or I just want to study on my own? Because I feel like, it's one of those modalities that a little more loose in terms of like certification, right? It's like, okay, everyone can be a sound healer. I have a sound ball in my office instead. Sometimes I need to just do my own quickie, to get back in balance. So what was your process like from that moment?
I think I'm fortunate in that. So Jessica, who plays the gong, plays the bowls, and has for a long time, was a teacher at the studio that I own outside of Austin, Soul Strong. And so Jess was, bringing in all of these sound sessions. But in addition, she put together a training for us and the staff. And then I realized I wanted a gong. I bought a gong. I started practicing, playing at home, kind of unsupervised, but then also I would watch videos and try to learn all that I could that was out there. And then I realized for me, this was going to be a bigger part of my life. And in order to lead gong baths, I wanted extra training. So I started taking formal in-person trainings in Austin with Mitab and Jess. And then from there, started leading them myself. And it's such a luxury, that we have a studio and a space, and we have a community that is so into sound healing as well. So it's a luxury not everybody has, but at the same time, you can invite people to the park, to your home. You can go to them. All of these instruments are for the most part mobile.
Right. And I feel like a lot of those instruments kind of like they have the invitation to play and experiment in them. They're not like intimidating instruments like a piano or a guitar where you feel like, okay, if I have absolutely zero music experience or knowledge, I cannot possibly make it a pleasant experience for anyone, right? With something like a gong or sound bowls, and it's kind of easy to just start producing sound, even though it's not like the official, I don't know, 111 hertz, but it can be soothing. So I feel like maybe what I'm leading to is just like this idea that just came to my mind, like inspiring people to also just play with it. Like, yes, you can get this certification and training, but it's also a very like a simple and biting way. Like you can get a lot of those instruments off like online and just, start playing. That's kind of like what I'm doing. Like the more I was reading your book and like, oh, I should get that and, just play with it. I have no intention to become a, sound healer, but it could be fun.
Yeah, I love that. I think I actually like kind of want to double down on what you said because through our sound healing certification programs, we often have folks come through, they get really excited. They want to purchase all of the instruments. They want to spend, thousands and thousands of dollars and fill their room full of things. And then outside of the container, because they don't have that aspect of play and practice built in, they kind of find themselves at a loss. I find that that's kind of like a component that we're encouraging is, take, 3 minutes a day and play your one single bowl, play it from different directions, use different type of mallets, notice the different effects that each of your practices has on your body and your mind and heart, and notice the differences each day. That's really at the core of, how we teach and what we believe is you don't have to have a massive set or 15 certifications to have a big impact on your own life and potentially those around you as well, if they're lucky.
Amazing. So what would be if you are a practitioner, what would be the kind of the easiest way to start incorporating into your practice? Like what would be your recommendation? Not to put you on the spot, and I know there's a whole book on this subject that you should follow probably, but just to give people like a quick and easy way that they didn't think about, maybe that would be really accessible for most people right now.
Jessica and I talk about this a lot with people. So to step back a bit as well is sound healing doesn't require any instrument. You have the instrument of the voice. So it could be as simple as taking in a deep breath and humming, taking in a deep breath and humming, and taking in a deep breath and humming. So 3 rounds that will create a shift in the body, right? Tapping into a deeper state of rest and restoration. Also, if you do have an instrument, so let's say you purchased, a $20 metal singing bowl and it's so cute and pretty, but you have no idea what to do with it. You might do something as simple as the same exercise, but instead tapping the singing bowl. So taking in an inhale, striking the singing bowl, letting it resonate and play out to its fullest, and then inhaling, tapping the singing bowl, letting it resonate and play out. So it can be very, very simple integration of these sound healing tools, starting with your own voice, moving to other instruments and aligning it with the breath, and really just bringing your mindful awareness to the present moment by listening to the sounds of the bowl. And there's lots of practices that we have in Seasons of Sound that are very accessible, but there is something to be said too for just playing intuitively.
I love that. And thank you for reminding us that our voice is actually an instrument too.
I always joke like I'm the worst, like in some ways, I'm the worst business person because I'm like, just hum. You don't need to buy anything.
How do you monetize that?
How do you monetize that?
I love this so much. We're just sharing free gifts with our listeners because we're very generous.
Yes, always.
But speaking of different ways to produce sound, what came to mind also, so we have the voice, we have those beautiful instruments, which is like this endless playground that you can play with. And then there's obviously also recorded sound, which is a whole other, category, right? And there's just seems to be so much happening in that space. What is your point of view of that? How do you integrate that together if you do at all? And also, what are some of the ways, kind of like not the do's and don'ts, but like what are some of the things for people to be aware of? Because I also hear different ideas about the recorded sound. Some of it is not like pure frequencies or whatever their labeled is. It might not be the right or the truthful thing. How does the average person even know the difference when it comes to recorded sound? What's pure, what's properly produced? So I would love your wisdom in that area.
Yeah. Oh, this is a fun question. I think at the end of the day, regardless of the exact frequency, be it for, the love frequency or for releasing, etc. If someone's, popping in their earbuds and that sound is calming to their nervous system, they feel some sort of change in their body by listening to it and change. In this instance, I mean, like kind of in a positive way versus like if they're feeling like they're kind of in a low energy and they want to increase their energy and they're feeling that from listening to the sound, and the reverse. So if they're at a heightened state and they're looking to kind of down regulate a bit and they're feeling that and hearing from the sound, then I say that regardless of if it's an exact frequency, that work is happening. Because as you said, the average listener, we're not able to, measure all of the hertz that we're listening to and understand and unpack whether or not these two align. And I think really it comes down to the intention of the listener, because we can't be in the recording studio asking the questions when the sound is being made, unfortunately, for the most part.
Well, I'm dreaming about a device that will allow us to actually recognize frequencies.
Well,
One day.
do keep us posted. So that sounds very interesting. Yeah. And until we have your next big thing out on the market, we can't do that. But
if anyone can do it, I think it would be genius. Because
absolutely.
Thing, I feel like it's probably built in our ear somewhere. We just haven't uncovered it yet.
It's so
That's
true.
What I feel like.
Yeah, there's so much we just don't know yet. But I'm a big proponent of, recorded sound. I think it's very accessible. Again, you don't have to have an instrument. There's so much free content out there that's good, that sounds great and is very enjoyable to listen to. So I think for the sake of accessibility and, again, if it is you're having the effect on the body that you're hoping, then absolutely, I'm all for it.
Amazing. No, it's a great advice. And I think like the key point here, like you mentioned, is just like being tuned in with your body, know what's good for you. Even if there is some information out there that might be conflicting or you feel like you don't know enough, like if it feels good, it's good. So I love that message.
Yeah, we try to simplify too as much as we can in the book Seasons of Sound in order for people to also just be less afraid. I think sometimes we kind of joke too about the commercialization of sound healing. And I think sometimes because of that, there's a fear that something will harm you. Like if you don't know enough information and then, God forbid, like you listen to 440 hertz, like something bad will happen to you. And that is
hilarious, by the way. That's hilarious.
That is absolutely not correct. And so really we give all these ideas for different types of frequencies that you can listen to. But as Jessica said, intention is number one. Also with that, you have to trust your intuition. There's so much wisdom in your intuition. And that's really what we're all trying to cultivate here is a greater sense of connection with our own highest self. So if you're listening to the, for example, like recorded crystal singing bowls, and you're resonating with the sound, listen to it. Like there is something, you are in alignment with that sound. So really it's just to help you foster a greater connection with your own intuition. It's kind of a funny story. One time I was at a gong training and my gong teacher, he has millions of gongs. So we're like, playing these gongs for each other. And then he set up, it's one-to-one sound healing training. It's called gong therapy. So we have a woman laying in the middle of a bunch of gongs. And then I start playing, and then she stops me, which is fantastic because you should be empowered to stop someone playing. And she goes, I don't know what is going on, but I'm about to jump out of my skin and I need to go take a breather. And then she left, and I got my gong teacher and I was like, Matab, I gently played this gong, and she's like out of the room. I don't know. And he goes, oh, yeah. I put that gong there, and that's a conflict gong. And the intention of the conflict gong is to activate the nervous system so that you can work through it and like strengthen the nervous system. And then, you bring them back. And I was like, well, number one, that would have been great to know. But also that is an example of someone just listening to their intuition and being like, get me out of here. I do not like this gong. But I think very few people will record a conflict gong. And my gong teacher has too many gongs to even own a conflict gong. But I think in 99.9% of cases, people are playing to calm the nervous system. This is a very unique use of sound healing.
I love the conflict gong. I'm going to buy one right now.
Like, oh yeah, that's my conflict.
This is like, for the hardcore,
Yeah. So I think in most cases you are not listening to a conflict gong.
Oh, that is too funny. I love those stories. I love the healing stories and journeys. But speaking of journeys, let's talk about the book. So at what point, so you've been exploring sound, you were passionate about it, but at one point you realized, okay, I'm actually the one or the two to write this book about bringing sound into more practitioners. Like, what was that moment like? And it sounds a very like empowering moment for you too.
Oh, you nailed it. Thank you so much. It's such an interesting story too. So we were hosting our sound healing certifications, and, each time we were creating these, massive workbooks for our students, pouring love into them each and every time, and constantly adding to them. And each time we did, the stack of the workbook would get a little heavier and a little thicker. And as our practice grew, as we, learned more, and we continued to infuse the different modalities of yoga, our trauma-informed practices, our restorative yoga practices that are in seasons of sound, we really wanted to kind of encompass all of that and into this workbook. And we were being reminded constantly, it's like, you should write a book. You should write a book. And especially in the healing space, and especially in sound healing, a lot of authors are men. And I was like, you know what? Maybe we should write a book. So we were preparing for our last year, we were preparing for our upcoming training. And we just decided, we looked at the timeline, and we had a very short amount of time to compile the book and to get it to press before our training. But we basically decided how we do all things, which is a little crazy, a little fast, but a lot of fun. We just completely dove in and made the book a thing. We dedicated hours and hours and hours in a very short amount of time to make it, easily understood, very user-friendly, full of practices that we personally use so that anyone can pick it up. And then also to really speak to our experienced sound healers that are in the space, to fill them up with inspiration, additional practices, to consider, trauma-informed spaces and ways to support rest. We really shared our heart in this book, and we're so glad we did it, even as crazy as it felt at the time.
So that sounds amazing. And I love your process. So you basically took the binder of all of your workbooks I'm
Yes.
simplifying and joking, but it's kind of, I think so many people like, don't realize that they already have materials probably that can be a starting point that makes it just so much easier than just sitting and staring at this blank screen with that first page and not knowing where to start.
People,
Yes.
especially, yeah, in the arena that we're in with yoga, meditation, and mindfulness, I tell people this all the time. They have so much that they, especially trainers, that they've created over the years, but really any yoga teacher, any sound healer, just pulling together all of the sequences that you've created, all of the wisdom that you've gained over the years. It's just organizing it and then also moving away from my hand drawn drawings of gongs being away from some pretty bad drawings and things that I was using and hiring an illustrator, I think was the thing that needed to happen for a long time. So that was exciting too with the book. To have an illustrator was amazing actually.
So the idea to collaborate with just came pretty natural from your work together. It was never like, oh, it's going to be my book, or no, it's going to be my book. So, I mean,
We are so lucky. I can't even say, Julie knows how much I adore her. I feel like when I walked into her studio that I was supposed to be there and all of these things, including the book, just happened. We work so well together. It's kind of scary sometimes. I feel like we share a brain.
I
So
love this so
we
much.
always just assumed that, this is our book. And we divvied up different sections. She got to bring in a lot of her incredible wisdom and experience through the gong trainings, through her own practice, as well as kind of diving into sharing the trauma-informed sound healing space. And, I got to bring in restorative and this singing bowls, and we collaborated on all the practices and the seasonality of the book as well. So yeah, it's definitely our baby.
It would have never happened either if Jessica wasn't co-writing it with me for a lot of reasons. Number one, she's incredibly organized, and we had all of these milestones and dates, and that's the reason it was able to happen. But also just like the joy of writing with a friend and having an excuse to get together. We would have our meetings at the same coffee shop, and the barista still, sees us, knows our name, knows that we wrote a book together.
At the coffee shop.
So, yeah. So if you have someone in your life like this, I would definitely recommend partnering up. At the same time, it's really based on how you write and how you work best. So lots of people like to, write in isolation and work in isolation. And then in this project for me, there's no way I would have done it without Jessica.
That sounds like a perfect collaboration. I'm a little jealous in the best way possible. It does sound like I just imagine the TV sitting in a coffee shop in Austin and just having probably stressed a little bit about the milestones, but also like having the time of your life.
You're having too good of a time sometimes.
We were having, we had to, we fortunately have an amazing editor too that helped corral us, because I think the book could have been even longer, and perhaps there needs to be another book because we have even more content. But yeah, we really had some stressful moments when we were looking at calendars and being with reality of the logistics of going to print and the timeline of and all of the things that go into that. But it truly was an absolute joy. And I never imagined that we would have ever done this. And now it seems essential. It's like, of course we were going to write a book. Of course we were.
It's so much better. If any of you who are listening write trainings, for example, because I have spent years writing trainings, and my yoga teacher training manual that I wrote is, I don't know, like 500 pages. I would have much now, having the experience of having a book that's available online on Amazon. It's such a better experience than having this like hidden workbook that only people who take your training will ever see. I was telling Jessica, I was like, I will never write another manual. I will always go for a book.
It's genius.
Absolutely. I mean, I self-published 3 books, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's something that definitely looks intimidating, but what people don't realize, there's so many amazing tools today that you literally like, you can technically do it all yourself. You don't even need to hire people. Like if you're a great writer, I think editor is always great. But let's say you really don't have a budget or don't have the person to collaborate with. It's so easy to just publish a book. You can literally do it for free online by just writing it on a Word document and uploading. That's how easy it is. And there's even AI creating covers and all of that for you. So really, there's no excuses these days, right?
True. There really isn't. There's so many resources, as you said, that make it even more approachable. And even, publishing through Amazon and their KDP platform, it's very, very user friendly in terms of getting things out to print and out into people's hands.
Right. Absolutely. So I love that you are kind of inspiring others. I love this idea of turning your manuals to a book. This is really brilliant. And I'm sure so many listeners sitting on top of it. I can see people now like opening their drawers and trying to find
Exactly
visual, physical, right? And try to see what's in there.
For me too, it's like years of slideshows and all sorts of things that were used to help compile this book as well. So yes, big shout out to just taking the time to pull it together into a book. It's good for you as well, just for your own growth to see like, oh my gosh, I was able to do this. And it's such a fulfilling feeling. But also, it's, as you said, it really inspires others. Like, I can't tell you how many people in my yoga community now want to write books or are working on books because they're similar to me and having taught yoga for a while now, have led trainings, and they are also, pulling resources together. So, I think that's part of too this whole conversation today that's so wonderful is like, we're meant to also just be a source of like cheer and support for everybody else out there. That we actually were on, to be transparent, we were like, talking to another podcaster the other day who's still working her full-time job and then doing the podcast. She didn't sound very excited about her full-time job was the difference. So not very excited about the full-time job, doing the podcast and then doing a lot of one-to-one healing. So it's like, this whole idea of also entrepreneurship and, how do I create this into my full-time job? And I think a book is a very strong stepping stone for being able to really have a successful asset for your business as well. So it's a beautiful combination of like love and practicality all tied up in one.
I love this message so much. Thank you for reminding that because a book, it's just such a great tool. I couldn't agree more to, just have your vision out there in a format that couldn't get more like 3-dimensional, right? It's like you bringing it into a physical product, like all of your ideas, all your energy, all your inspiration, you're putting it out there.
I am capable of creating something that is, worthwhile, long lasting. And that process was fun, enjoyable. Of course, it was stressful in some ways too. You kind of all in. And each time that you reapproach another idea, you have that muscle built. You have a little bit of extra oomph behind your creative process because, you took an idea from, a seedling, all the way into, something that's flourishing and it's like real world data. It's like, I am capable of doing this. I think the more that we have the ability to dream and be creative and try those processes, the better. Many people in our industry, I believe, get stuck in the ideation phase. And it's overwhelming. They don't know what the next step is. They don't know what to charge. They think the colors of the brand are wrong, et cetera, et cetera. And they get stuck in the minutia and the idea dies. So I think the more that you can push yourself through, be it a very short timeline for a book, for your training, or getting that course up by, the beginning of the year, whatever that is, allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to complete something and watch it ripple. The more you could do it, the more likely you are to do it again.
Amazing message. Well, thank you so much. We're almost out of time and love this conversation. So empowering for so many creators, future creators. Any last words of wisdom from both of you? Anything you learned from your experience that you want to pass along and just share with our community?
I think the biggest message is really you can do it. So as an entrepreneur myself, it's unbelievable, the growth that we've had in the past 6 years at Soul Strong, and then also with Seasons of Sound and the sound trainings. Now we are traveling with our sound trainings, taking them to other places and studios, creating online courses as well. And if you were to have asked me 7 or 8 years ago what I thought my yoga business might be, I think maybe I thought I would have, 60 regular members or something like that coming to the studio. And I had no idea the many pathways that would be created because of collaborating with other entrepreneurial people. So really just opening yourself up to others, asking for help, but also like seeing what opportunities are out there with others who are also interested in creation and co-creation. And I know it's kind of trite, but just saying yes as well to opportunities. I think living in that space of just saying yes has been extraordinarily helpful for me and my own growth. So, sound healing aside, I think it's like if you believe in what you're doing, just going for it and also like never in any way limiting yourself and all of the possibilities.
Amazing message.
Yeah. And I love everything Julie said. And for me, I think I would offer trust. Trust the process, trust where you are right now, and everything that you have experienced before is preparing you for where you're headed. Even if you're not sure exactly where that is, just trust each day, continue to get up, continue to maybe work the job that you don't love so that you get a few hours to experience the thing that you do love. And that is a ripple effect. So the trust is very much the underpinning of it all. So trust the process and just keep showing up.
Love this idea of surrender and trust. I mean, it's something I've been practicing a lot, especially this year. So thank you for reinforcing that message. And thank you for showing so many other female, especially, and practitioners in general, that you can do it. You can be an author and you can just also take this very empowering step of recognizing a trend and also being the one to spread the word and not thinking, oh, am I qualified to do that? Is there someone better to do that? You just step into your power and you got amazing book out that I'm sure is going to inspire others. And hopefully this episode inspired at least some of our listeners to try sound healing, to introduce it to their lives, and hopefully also introduce it to their practice. Because as a client of a lot of healers, I know personally when sound healing is involved or there's just sound in the room, it just makes the healing process so much deeper and just incredible. So thank you for spreading that message and being on this podcast. And I can't wait to see what else your collaboration might bring.
Thank you so much. This has been inspiring for us as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Yuli. Thank you for your podcast and all of your work. It's so needed and we appreciate you so much.